sign in back at the back and to pick up an invoice to fill out for our legislature. If you have not had an opportunity to do that, please do. Please sign in at the back, let us know you're here. Also, grab a clipboard with an invoice and fill out what you would like to see our tax dollars spent on for our public schools. What are the things that our legislature is not paying for that they need to? I'm Jennifer Owen. I'm going to be moderating tonight. I'm a former school board member in Knox County, and we have several speakers. We have speakers tonight from several different areas and several different perspectives, and hopefully we will leave here tonight really ready to talk to our neighbors and our friends and share with them what's going on in our legislature. For several years, several's not right, for decades, people in our legislature have been trying to get this voucher bill passed. They have tried over and over and over. I've been there watching them try this since 2009. Every year, they try something just a little more surprising, a little more underhanded, a little more behind closed doors. The last time they got something passed was when they had a special session on COVID relief. So the special session that they had on COVID relief, they also pulled out a school voucher bill. That's not what that special session should have been for. We all know that, they all know that. Well, this time they are planning a special session regarding hurricane relief. Guess what they want to tack on? No. And if you take a look, there are some copies of the voucher bill that are back there, the bill that's been filed so far. And of all the things that they have tied to voucher bills in the past, this one is, to me, the most shocking. They are tying to this voucher bill building dollars. Right now, our state gives very minimal amounts for school buildings. That all comes from the county. But they are tying some building funds to this bill. Building funds for areas that are especially impoverished, and areas that are depressed, and areas that have had natural disasters. So rather than taking funds for natural disasters and allocating them to those counties that need to rebuild their school buildings, they're sticking it in a voucher bill. Boo! So that those folks in that county, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to say no to that? That's not an upstanding way to do anything. I had any worse words. I'm choosing my bad words carefully. So, this is something that I think more than ever, we've fought vouchers for lots of voucher reasons, but this is just really far too far. And we really need to talk to a lot of people about the desperate measures that are being taken. So with all that said, let me introduce to you our first speaker. Our first speaker is a parent from Blount County, and this is Dustin Park. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Dustin Park. I live in Maryville in Blount County with my wife and 3 kids. All my kids attend Maryville City Schools. I have a 6th grader, an 8th grader, and a sophomore at Maryville High School. I want to tell you our family's story because it's an illustration of why any voucher plan, including the current proposal, is wrong. Before my family moved to Tennessee in 2016, we were in the midst of a conflict with our son's elementary school in Illinois. My son Elliot, the 8th grader, has Down syndrome. As he neared the end of his kindergarten year, we were informed that the following year he would be moved from his home school and segregated from his general education peers. This ran completely contrary to the inclusive philosophy with which we approach Elliot's education. By the time we knew we were moving to Tennessee, we had begun a lawsuit against that school district. I received a crash course in disability advocacy and disability law. That fight has informed my life and my family's life ever since. And in many ways, this moment we find ourselves in now feels very similar to that moment. Before we moved down here, I began researching schools and reaching out to various people within the disability community about the schools around this area. Someone suggested we check out a new voucher program that has just started specifically for kids with disabilities. So I called the state about it and very quickly found out that in order to be eligible for a voucher, we'd have to waive my son's federal due process rights under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act.
Wow. They really told you that?
They did.
I'm a special ed person. You can't do that. That's against federal law.
Having just become intimately familiar with those rights, and how valuable they were. Any program that nullified the rights of my child was ludicrous to me. So I passed that off as some fringe program that nobody would possibly utilize, and our son started school at Sam Houston Elementary in Maryville, where he would go on to thrive. Fast forward to 2019, a new voucher program is introduced, a so-called pilot program for Davidson and Shelby counties. Once again, there was a heavy emphasis on pushing this program on kids with disabilities. But guess what didn't change? The requirement to waive federal due process rights. You see, private schools do not need to abide by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. That safeguards the educational rights of students with disabilities. They are free to deny a student because they have a disability. The vote on the 2019 voucher proposal was infamously passed by a razor-thin margin after the voting was held open long enough for leadership to strong-arm the votes that they needed for passage. And now here we are again, with Bill Lee and Cameron Sexton's latest voucher push, which failed last session, and if we have anything to do with it, we'll fail again this session. There are many bad aspects of this bill that you will hear about from the other speakers, but I'm here to tell you, regardless of what bribes or extortion are included in the latest bill, the fundamentals will always remain the same. Vouchers discriminate against our most vulnerable students while rewarding the most privileged.
Yes. Yep.
Private schools are by definition exclusive, and public schools are by definition inclusive.
Yes.
So it comes down to what kind of world do we envision for our children?
Yes.
One that accepts every child regardless of background or ability, or one that picks winners and losers that take from those most in need and gives to those who already have enough.
Boo.
We believe in a Tennessee for all, not just for the few. Thank you.
Our next scheduled speaker was Stephen Rogers, but he has a basketball game that his band has to be at in Scott County tonight. And when you're a band director in a rural area, you're it. I started my career teaching in Morgan County, which is very close to where he is. And one day in my mailbox, I had a letter for the supervisor of music for Morgan County Schools. I'm like, oh, I've been promoted. And I was just the band director at the school, so that was the closest thing they had, and they stuck it in my mailbox. I think they kind of passed it around to the different schools. So one of the things we know is that our rural areas are very opposed to this voucher legislation. Many of those areas have no private schools for their students to go to. So their students would have to leave their county. Those are not going to be struggling students. Those are going to be students who have a lot of ability a lot of financial ability to make that kind of travel. They have someone who can get them there, someone who can get them home. So what's happening with a voucher in a county like that, in a county where you have one or two schools? If you have just a few students who travel to another county for school, a lot of things are happening. They're sending their parent back and forth across the line, maybe doing business in another county, which is hurting the businesses in your county. You have the support system that you had in your school, also going somewhere else, and now spending a lot of time on the road. You have a lot of loss in your community when you have students who are trying to travel somewhere else to get the education that they are supposed to be getting in every public school in Tennessee. For our rural students, it's really important that we make sure people understand that our legislature, our government, they have a duty. They have a constitutional obligation to support a system of public schools. And when they are giving funds to students to go somewhere else, that's a way for them to get out of doing their duty to support all of our public schools. Our students need the support, they need that investment in their own school. They don't need to have it outsourced somewhere else. I don't know that that's what Stephen would tell us. I'm pretty sure that Stephen could talk for a very, very long time about it. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next educator, who is going to talk to us about the voucher program from an educator standpoint. This is Michael O'Malley, and he is a teacher from Knox County.
Hi everybody. So as Jennifer said, I'm a teacher in Knox County at Carter High School. I'm also a parent to students who are in Knox County schools. You know, a lot of people call the vouchers a scam, which I think is accurate, but I also today kind of want to talk about how the proposed voucher plan is also just a brazen insult to our public schools, to our tax dollars, to our sense of the collective good, and above all to our intelligence. It's literally the job of an educator to be informed and oppose ignorance. Yet there's Governor Lee and his legislative collaborators introducing a voucher bill with a $2,000 so-called one-time bonus for teachers. And I just find it deeply insulting to the dignity of my profession. First of all, just for calling it a bonus instead of what it actually is, which is a bribe.
Yeah.
A bribe for us educators to play dumb. We're being bribed to play dumb about a bunch of things. Some folks have already touched on some of these. I'm also going to leave out other reasons why it would be us playing dumb to act as if this is a benefit to us. But here are a few things. They want us to pretend that the average public school student will be a voucher beneficiary, when in other states, vouchers have overwhelmingly gone to those who have never stepped foot in public school. They want us to pretend that vouchers will benefit quote-unquote low-income students, when the qualifying income for the alleged low-income vouchers caps out at 3 times the income ceiling for free and reduced lunch, which is about $173,000 a year for a family of 4, like mine. I don't make $173,000. They want us to pretend like $7,000 per student is enough to pay for most private school tuitions. They want us to pretend that similar universal voucher programs in other states haven't become large budget liabilities. They want us to pretend that vouchers just work at all. To pretend that public schools are inherently inferior to private schools. To pretend that deep strains of classism and inequality aren't the primary reasons that many private schools appear better than public schools. So we as educators are being asked to betray the central ethos of our profession and ignore the very obvious facts of the situation. And for what, $2,000? It's month's rent and utilities in Knoxville. I mean, if you're lucky, right? Educators aren't dumb. It's time and time again, though, the state treats us as if we are, and it's offensive. It's exhausting to be treated in every single legislative session, year after year, like you're ignorant of the basic realities of your profession. We aren't dumb, and we know what our schools need, and it isn't vouchers, and it isn't something that a meager $2,000 bribe can patch. I'm going to name a few things that our schools need that are not news to the state legislature, because a lot of these have been in bills before that have not passed out of committee to even have a floor vote. I mean, first of all, our schools need money. Governor Lee and his Confederates are prepared to drop hundreds of millions of dollars on funding for these vouchers. But here's another thing that they're bribing us to do. They want us to shut up about what our schools really need this money for. So in the interest of not shutting up, here are a few things that I think teachers know that we need more than vouchers. or at least I know. Capital projects, repairs, maintenance. It's already been touched on already, but I mean, in my school alone, it's taken a couple years to get like a new water fountain that works, or new mirrors for the bathroom, and that's minuscule in terms of budget compared to what all the schools across the state need in terms of new buildings, and especially those affected by Hurricane Helene. We need pay raises. Teachers, obviously, for myself, but also just as important as our classified staff, the people who keep the very fabric of our schools together, our custodians, our cafeteria staff, our office staff, our aides and support staff, who all get paid less, like way less than teachers do. We're supposed to pretend that $173,000 is low income for a family of four, and yet we run our schools almost exclusively with people that make a small fraction of that. We need social workers and counselors. We already have social workers, but they carry enormous caseloads of students. We have counselors, oftentimes those who serve multiple schools at a time and have to alternate which day they will be at which school. Imagine what kinds of services we could extend to improving student well-being and physical and mental health if we simply had more of these wonderful staff. We could have fully funded universal pre-K. Our state funds pre-K in a fraction of the amount that it would take for every student to have pre-K. And students achieve significantly better outcomes from having pre-K than from being dropped into a private school on a parachute made of $7,000. We're about improving student outcomes, right? So don't we want to give them access to free, high-quality education? So let everyone have access to pre-K. That's another thing we use money for. We have smaller class sizes, 4 classroom staff. Very simple. We can have free universal school lunches. Children shouldn't go into debt for being fed in school. We can have free period products. Every student who needs them should have access to them, regardless of their ability to buy them. If we're talking about improving the educational experience of low-income students without starting by providing for basic sanitary needs, that's what we do it. The line from Nashville for years has been budget austerity. We ask for funding to meet educational needs, and the state would turn out its pockets and shrug. Sorry, we can't afford to give more resources to public schools. So in a way, I'm thankful for Bill Lee for ripping back the curtain and showing us how much we could actually spend on public schools. But of course, it's obvious that Bill Lee and his conspirators have no interest in actually meeting the needs of most students in our state. If they're going to plunk down so much money on voucher scam before even considering more effective, wide-reaching educational uses for that money, especially those educational uses for that money that are not also tied to this voucher scam. It sure would be nice if they would just give educators the dignity of telling us to our face the truth, instead of palming us a couple $1,000 and asking us to look the other way. That's really all I have to say. So I'll pass the mic.
Our next speakers are going to talk to you from a district leadership perspective. Several years ago in a school board meeting, I was trying to explain the financial difficulties that would be coming if they passed a voucher bill. And as I was speaking and getting a little nervous speaking, I looked out at the audience, and all of the school finance staff and all of the county finance staff sit together right over here on the side. And I looked out at the audience, and they were all going. Anyone who tells you that there is not a massive financial impact to our county budgets is just a liar. It's that simple. So our next speaker is from Knox County Board of Education. Please welcome Catherine Mike.
Hello, and thank you for having me. I want to thank Michael O'Malley for coming to our school board meetings and always speaking as eloquently as he spoke tonight. And for Lance and David and all the people. I know I can't do my job without them, and I can't do my job without everyone that's in this room. I represent District 4 in Knox County, and a lot of people look at it as affluent and full of money and full of foundations and PTOs. And it is true that we have a lot of involved parents We have a lot of involved businesses, but I have 9 schools, and all but one of them have portables. And they have portables, many of them are from the 90s. One recently caught fire. And to build, today I got a ballpark that was just thrown out there because this was recent, that to build a facility to add on where that portable currently is $5 to $10 million. We don't have $5 to $10 million. That's one school out of the 9 schools. All 9 of my schools need facility help. They need like additions. They need new roofs. I'm sure you could give a whole list of all the things that West High School needs. And all of our teachers are working so hard. All of our students are working so hard. So many teachers are on carts. They're sharing classrooms. And when we're talking about giving money away, I get so angry because they talk about it like you can just go and get money and pluck it from the air. If we can go and get money and pluck it from the air, I'd like to have $5 to $10 million for Rocky Hill Elementary.
Yes.
And it is true that our central office finance team knows that we will be devastated with this voucher bill if it pulls through. And to echo what Ms. Owens said, is that there's always surprises, and Knox County School Board had our meetings last week, and one of our surprises was our legislative representative suggesting that we should support school choice and vouchers. And
Boo!
it was not on our agenda. Well, to make legislative priorities was a part of our agenda, but to make that our legislative priority was not a part of our agenda, and I felt very blindsided, as many other board members did last Monday. And it's absolutely preposterous that we would be giving money away and okay to give money away like that.
Yes, yes.
And then I'm gonna shift a little bit to talk about kind of my journey to here. Is that it's a shared story that's similar to other parents, and my son that's getting ready to turn 11, he went through early intervention through the state. I'm not an educator. I don't have the patience and all of the things that it takes to be that, so I always admire everyone that's willing to do that. I'd say too many words if I had to, be that. So I'm always happy to support those people that are doing it, but my son didn't speak until after he was 3, and we were kind of, once he aged out of the program, and we were looking at what was next, and me not knowing or understanding early childhood education and what those resources look like, had to educate myself on what that looks like and what his life would look like. And I went to our zone school to ask, okay, well, I have this child, he's currently 3, but he's not talking, and I don't know what that means. He can hear, but he's really good at math. He's already teaching himself to read, even though he can't talk, which is wild. And so, what resources do you have for him? And I was just told, oh, well, he goes in that room. Oh, well. And it's just like, oh, what? No, as a parent, panic and all of that stuff. And so I heard about vouchers, and I thought, oh, vouchers, this, sounds amazing. Then we could afford to go to another school. And then I, do my research and realize that, number one, private schools are not necessarily better than our public schools.
Right.
Our public school teachers, the amount that they give to students and the joy that they fill their rooms with is just like, no amount of money can match that.
Yes.
And, digging deeper, and then fast forward, here I am, and he's about to turn 11. So, I really applaud everyone in this room, and I hope that you keep showing up. I need you, our schools need you, and if I can do anything for you, please let me know.
and hear from a school board member from Oak Ridge, Ashley Craven.
First step, don't fall. Hi, my name is Ashley Craven. I am one of the most recently elected members of the Oak Ridge Board of Education as of November of 2024. I come from a family of educators. My parents are both of my parents are retired teachers. My mom is not good at being retired, so she now works when people go on maternity leave and things like that, or covers reading intervention openings. My siblings are all teachers or guidance counselors, and even my siblings in law that they've married are administrators in some capacity. So I grew up speaking the language of IEPs and 504s and RTIs. And when I became a mom, and specifically following the Covenant shooting, I was worried about the safety of our children. And I reached out to my then representative and was met with very callous indifference. And so I started looking into where can I make a difference and an impact, and that answer was at the local school board level. Since deciding to run for office, I have changed my mind that gun safety is the biggest threat to our children and the education system. It is vouchers. Vouchers is the #1 threat to our public schools. They disguise it in language like the Education Freedom Act. But while proponents of school vouchers argue that they provide parents with more choices, I think we have to examine the broader implications of this approach. Vouchers take much needed funding away from our public schools and exacerbate existing challenges. First and foremost are the financial implications. Every dollar removed from public schools to fund a voucher program is a dollar that cannot be used to support the students that our public schools serve. When taxpayer dollars are redirected to private schools through vouchers, public schools often face significant budget cuts. These schools are tasked with serving all students, regardless of their backgrounds or needs, yet they'll be forced to operate with fewer resources. And as funding diminishes, so does the quality of education that our public institutions can offer, which ultimately affects the students who rely on them the most. Vouchers increase socioeconomic segregation within our schools. Families with greater financial means are the only ones that have the ability to take advantage of these vouchers because private schools do not cost $7,000. The tuition is typically significantly higher, and they can choose to raise it at any time. This creates an education system where wealthier students attend private schools with ample resources, while lower income students remain in underfunded public schools, which again exacerbates that inequality. All children deserve equal access to quality education.
Yes.
And vouchers are the way for those who can afford to pay the difference to actually use a voucher and make a school choice, and those who cannot. And it's also crucial to highlight that private schools are benefiting from these vouchers and are not held to the same standards as public schools. They are not required to provide essential services like transportation, IEPs. And furthermore, many private schools are not even mandated to employ accredited teachers or follow state testing guidelines. This lack of oversight puts at risk the educational experiences of the very students that these vouchers claim that they are intended to help. And then add to this that private schools can reject any applicant for any or no reason. And it's easy to see that the only choice with vouchers is the choice given to private schools for who they want to let through their doors. In addition to these fundamental issues, it's important to recognize that voucher pilot programs have not demonstrated any proven success on improving academic outcomes. Tennessee's own Commissioner of Education, Lizette Reynolds, told senators back in January that the Education Savings Account student test results, quote, aren't anything to write home about. Which raises the question, why are we siphoning money away from public schools if the results don't support the investment? Research consistently shows that fully funding our public schools with public dollars leads to better outcomes for all children across the state. When we invest in public education, we invest in the future of our society. We provide the necessary resources for teachers, support staff, and for critical programs that benefit every student, regardless of their zip code. I seeing firsthand the difference in what a school with basic funding versus being fully funded looks like. So I grew up in rural East Tennessee in Greene County. My senior year was the first year that they even offered an AP class. We did not have a band. We did not have a theater program. My senior year, we got to put on like a kids play for an elementary school. That was our theater program. We did not have dual credit classes, and post-graduation options were presented as college with extensive student loans or warehouse jobs. So this is where I get to brag a little bit about Oak Ridge. And Oak Ridge is in a unique position because Oak Ridge only has 9 schools. Her single district in Knox County has 9 schools. So Oak Ridge is funded by the municipality at a higher rate than what the state provides. Do you know what the kids at Oak Ridge High School are doing? They're getting their pilot's license in an aviation program before they even graduate. They're learning how to use the same equipment that is used at the Oak Ridge National Lab, equipment and processes that most engineering students don't see in college until their junior year. They're studying healthcare, robotics, welding. They have kids invited to perform at the Jimmy's in Times Square, which is the high school equivalent of the Tony Awards. And it's because the city as a municipality is investing in the students. And that is what should be available to every child across the state of Tennessee. We need to consider the vital role that public schools play in our communities. Unlike private institutions, public schools cannot pick and choose which students to accept, and they are often the only place where students can receive 2 meals a day or will be warm in a classroom during the winter months. The resources intended for public education must remain intact to ensure that these essential services continue. And when we cut funding to finance vouchers, we undermine our ability to support our at-risk students who need it the most. Finally, studies consistently demonstrate that fully funding public schools leads to better outcomes for all children across the state. By prioritizing investment in public education, we can ensure that every student has access to the resources and support that they need to thrive. So let's advocate for a strong public education system that serves all students equitably. Instead of diverting funds away from public schools, let's work together to provide the necessary resources that foster success and opportunity for every child. Public funds are meant to be used for public good, not private gain. I encourage you, attend your city council meetings, attend your school board meetings. Let them know that you are listening, you are watching, you are voting, and you are holding them accountable. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Before I turn this over to Christiana, I want to talk to you about how your legislators are likely to respond when you tell them that we need more funds for public schools. They are likely to tell you that in the last 6 years, they have increased public school funding by $2 billion. That sounds really great, unless you do a little math. So let's do a little math. For many years, their own funding committee, at the time it was the BEP committee, which they've disbanded, their own BEP committee studied how much was being put into the funding formula. Year after year after year, they determined that our legislature was underfunding our schools by about $500 million. So during that 6 years that they have increased by $2 billion, they have shortchanged us by $1 billion. It's really important when they tell us how much they are giving that we look at how underfunded things are and how that big dollar amount they're giving isn't making up for the underfunding year after year after year after year. Let them know about the things that you are missing. Let them know about the things that you need. I'm going to turn this over to Christiana so we can look at some of the things that you have listed as needs for your schools.
Hey, hey, hey. How are we? Yeah, you guys can clap. It's okay. Thank you. I'm Christiana, and Governor does indeed plan to sell out all of our public school kids to his billionaire buddies, like he tried to do last year, and we told him no, right?
Yeah.
So, we are here to tell him what we actually want to see, which is investment in our public schools. You guys have those invoices that some of you filled out, and you're still filling them out. Perfect, love you for that. Some of the things that we want to see our public dollars spent on in public schools are smaller class sizes. You want more people in the schools to help your students, teachers aides, counselors, school psychologists. Yes, woohoo! You want to see robust arts programs. You want to see kids fed at school. Because you know kids can't learn if they're hungry or if they need a hug. We want to see kids in every zip code, of every race, of every socioeconomic status, with equal opportunities in our public schools. And we're not going to get that if we hand over our public dollars to private schools and private interests, are we?
No.
Right. Woo, thank you. Let me get another poster. We have three. There's lots of great ideas. Lots of great ideas. I would also take anybody out there telling me what you want to see if you're still working on your invoice.
I'm collecting them.
Beautiful. Smaller class sizes. Housing, unhoused students and families. We know that maybe some of this money, if we want to actually support public school students, to go to those warming centers that have to be open, at least here in Knoxville, to house some of our unhoused community. Spanish and ASL classes for staff. I saw interpreters. I saw learning outside of the zip code, field trips. Funding extracurricular activities. So students who need help paying for bands or rentals or sports equipment have that. They can do extracurriculars like their peers. Better and reliable transportation for our students. Like we said, those private schools don't even have to offer any transportation to their students. Functional bathrooms and water fountains. Investing in infrastructure. Keeping technology current. All of these things are things that we want to see. So we are not only saying no to vouchers, we are saying yes to public schools.
Yes.
We are saying yes to vouchers. We have a version of what we want to see in the legislature, and it is not vouchers. That is not the priorities of East Tennessee, and we're going to let them know that. So all of these invoices that you filled out, we are going to send to them, and there are also people coming around with these handy-dandy little handouts.
Who needs one?
Raise your hand if you don't have a flyer.
Or if you want a few extras to.
Yeah, you could totally pass these out to neighbors who weren't able to come tonight. The folks who came out from other counties, I appreciate you so much. Let your neighbors know about their struggle.
You're also welcome to take extra invoices and give them to your neighbors.
We also have postcards in the back that we are going to have you fill out. Maybe you'll pick a couple of things that you can put on your big invoice. We're going to slap a stamp on that and send those straight to the legislature on our way home. We are going to let them know through email. We're going to call our representatives. You can send a postcard, get connected to your local community. Look around this room. There are at least 45 people in this fight. We want to see fully funded public schools. And additionally, if you want one of these super cool t-shirts that I'm wearing, you can come to the Public School Strong training on January 20th. I'm just going to let you know what we've been doing, how to get involved, come to your local school board meeting to let them know that we want to see safe, equitable, fully funded public schools. Thank you guys so much for coming out. If you haven't been
I'm going to read some past postcards around again. Fill that out here and leave it here, and we're going to send them together, okay?
Yep, I just wanted to echo what Amanda said. We have postcards. Please do not leave this building until you've filled out a postcard, because I've got a stack full of stamps. And so we're going to get these. I'm going to put stamps on them, and I'm going to put them in the mailbox on the way home. So 2 things with the postcards. There's some very simple things on the front of the postcard that say, my school district needs blank. So fill those in and write your school district name in the blank. And then on the back, if you want to write another note that just says, please vote no on HB1, SB1, please do that. And then to find the address of your state rep, on the back of this flyer, there's a link. And you just put in your address. If you don't already know, it'll come up with your state rep, give you the address, and that's the address you'll put on the back. If you need any help with that, just let one of the folks up here know, and we can help you find that address. But please get a postcard, fill it out, and leave it on that table with the registration, and we'll get it sent.
Again, thank you guys for coming out. Please grab one of those postcards. Please grab some of these informational flyers to give to your neighbors. Please fight for all public school students because our public dollars belong in public schools. Thank you.
Who needs a postcard over here? Postcard. Anyone else need a postcard? Yes.